A man sits alone in his room, scrolling through his phone late at night. His heart is racing. He's been thinking about her for months now. Not just because of her beauty on screen, but because of something deeper. The way she carries herself with grace. The way her interviews reveal a woman of substance, intelligence, and values that align with his own. He's a man of means, a man of character, someone who doesn't chase after every pretty face he sees on television. No, this is different. He's been praying about it. He's been watching her closely, not in a creepy way, but in the way a serious man observes a woman he's considering spending the rest of his life with. He's seen her kindness in how she treats fans. He's noticed her humility in how she speaks about her success. He's observed her faith and her dedication to her craft. Everything checks out. Everything makes sense. He's ready to take the next step. He's ready to reach out through the right channels, maybe through a mutual friend, maybe through her management. He's already rehearsing what he'll say. But then he sees it. A blog post. Then another. Then another. Sonia is married. Sonia has a child. Maurice is her husband. The headlines scream at him from every corner of the internet. His heart sinks. The excitement that had been building for months deflates like a punctured balloon. Confusion replaces hope. Doubt replaces certainty. And just like that, a potential love story, a home that could have been built on genuine admiration and shared values, begins to crumble before it even had a chance to start. This is not fiction. This is the reality that false rumors create. This is the invisible damage that careless bloggers and gossip-hungry social media users inflict on real people with real emotions and real futures. Let's be brutally honest here. No right-thinking man with self-respect and proper home training will knowingly pursue a woman he believes is already married. Marriage is sacred. It's not a joke. It's not a competition. A man of integrity doesn't show up at another man's door trying to steal his wife. That's not honorable. That's not how decent people operate. So when these bloggers and gossip pages keep screaming from every digital rooftop that Sonia is married to Maurice or some random Mollywood actor they've conjured up in their imagination, they are not just spreading harmless entertainment. They are literally padlocking doors that God himself might have opened for her. They are sabotaging her future. They are playing Russian roulette with her destiny, and they don't even realize it. Or maybe they do realize it and they simply don't care because the clicks and the comments and the shares are more important to them than someone's actual life. Think about it for a second. How many good men have scrolled past Sonia's name, saw those headlines, felt that initial disappointment, and then simply moved on to consider other options? How many potential connections, introductions, and divine appointments have been blocked because someone decided to manufacture a marriage story for content? The answer is we'll never know, and that's the tragedy of it all. This situation is exactly why Sonia had no choice but to speak up during that recent interview with John. Some people, the same ones who probably spread the rumors in the first place, had the audacity to criticize her for addressing it publicly. They said she should have kept quiet. They said silence is golden. They quoted proverbs about how a wise person doesn't respond to every accusation. But here's what those critics conveniently forgot. Silence is only golden when it protects your peace. When silence starts to actively destroy your reputation, your opportunities, and your future, then silence becomes a suicide pact with falsehood. Sometimes keeping quiet doesn't make the lie go away. Sometimes keeping quiet makes people believe the lie even more. They interpret your silence as confirmation. They say, see, she didn't deny it, so it must be true. Sonia endured these fabricated stories for months, maybe even years. She watched her name being dragged through the mud of gossip blogs. She saw her image being used to sell fake headlines that had nothing to do with her actual life or her actual achievements. She watched as her hard-earned success was being overshadowed by manufactured drama. And she finally reached a breaking point where enough was enough. So she did what any rational person with a functioning spine would do. She set the record straight. She looked into that camera during the interview and said it clearly, plainly, without stammering or stuttering, that she is not married to anyone. Not Maurice. Not any Mollywood actor. Not anybody. Period. End of story. Case closed. Yet somehow, and this is where it gets both hilarious and infuriating at the same time, some people still had the nerve to call her a liar. Let that sink in for a moment. A woman stands up and tells you about her own life, her own marital status, something she obviously knows better than anyone else on planet Earth, and random strangers on the internet have decided they know her life better than she does. They've appointed themselves as the official record keepers of her personal affairs. They are sitting in their houses, probably in their pajamas, eating noodles at 2 in the morning, and they've somehow become experts on whether or not Sonia has a husband hidden somewhere. The audacity is, people seem to forget that Sonia is not just a character on their television screens. She's not just an actress who exists solely for their entertainment and speculation. She's a human being with a beating heart, with emotions that can be hurt, with dignity that deserves respect, and with dreams that include finding love on her own terms and in her own timing. She has a mother who reads these lies online. She has siblings who have to defend her at family gatherings when distant relatives ask nosy questions based on blog gossip. She has friends who get frustrated watching her name being tossed around like a volleyball in the court of public opinion. She has colleagues in the industry who respect her work but wonder why she's constantly surrounded by unnecessary controversy. When people carelessly throw around false information just to make their pages trend, they don't think about these ripple effects. They don't consider the human cost of their content. Even the brands that might want to partner with her, even the filmmakers who might want to cast her in major roles, they all read this nonsense online. And while some of them are smart enough to do their own research and verify facts, others might hesitate. They might think twice. They might wonder if working with her comes with too much baggage, even though that baggage is completely fabricated. That's how dangerous and far-reaching the consequences of careless talk can become. There's a proverb that says a single spark can burn down an entire forest. That same principle applies here. A single rumor, posted at the right time with the right headline and the right thumbnail, can set fire to years of hard work, years of maintaining a good reputation, years of building trust with fans and the industry. Sonia didn't rise to prominence because of controversy or scandal or calculated publicity stunts. She didn't slip her way to the top or use her body as a marketing tool. She didn't manufacture beef with other actresses to stay relevant. She rose because of genuine talent, consistent excellence in her craft, professionalism on set, and the kind of grace that can't be faked or bought. But now there are people actively trying to reduce all of that, all of her achievements and all of her dignity, to a stupid rumor about who she's supposedly married to. It's not just unfair. It's wicked. It's the kind of wickedness that masquerades as harmless gossip but actually carries the poison of destroyed destinies. Put yourself in her shoes for just 5 minutes. Wake up one random Tuesday morning, check your phone, and see your name trending. Your heart might skip a beat with excitement at first. Maybe you won a major award and didn't know yet. Maybe one of your movies just hit a milestone. But then you click on the trend and realize it has nothing to do with your work. It's people you've never met, sitting in locations you've never been to, confidently discussing details of a marriage you never had, to a man you're just colleagues with certainty that would make you question your own sanity. People are tagging you. Blogs are writing entire articles with your pictures. Fans are drawing conclusions and taking sides. Comment sections are filled with strangers who somehow know your business better than you know it yourself. And through all of this, nobody, not a single soul, bothered to reach out and ask you if any of it was true. Let's also talk about Maurice Sam for a second because this whole circus affects him too. Maurice is a hardworking actor trying to build his brand and establish himself in an already competitive industry. He goes to set, he delivers his lines, he creates magic with his co-stars, and he goes home. That's his job. That's what he signed up for. He did not sign up to be forcefully married off to every woman he shares good on-screen chemistry with. Both Sonia and Maurice happen to be exceptionally talented at what they do. When they are cast as romantic interests in a movie, they don't just go through the motions. They commit to the story. They make it believable. They make viewers feel every emotion. That's not evidence of a real-life romance. That's evidence of two professionals who are extremely good at their jobs. But somehow, In this age of blurred lines between fiction and reality, people have completely lost the ability to separate a movie from real life. Just because two actors can make you cry during a love scene doesn't mean they are actually in love. Just because they look good together on your screen doesn't mean they are planning a wedding. Acting is literally about pretending. It's about making fiction feel like truth. That's the entire point. But when the credits roll and the cameras stop, these people go back to being regular human beings with their own separate lives, their own separate goals, and their own separate relationship statuses. The real problem with today's social media landscape is that people have developed an insatiable appetite for drama that far exceeds their desire for truth. They don't actually want facts. Facts are boring. Facts don't generate the same dopamine rush as a juicy scandal. So when Sonia came out and calmly, clearly, and confidently stated that she is not married to anyone, a portion of the internet essentially covered their ears and went, "Lololo, I can't hear you." They accused her of lying, of hiding her husband, of being ashamed of her marriage. But let's apply some basic logic here for those in the back row who might be struggling to keep up. What exactly would Sonia gain from denying a marriage if she was actually married? Marriage is not a crime. Marriage is not something to be ashamed of. Marriage is actually celebrated in our culture. If Sonia was married, especially to someone like Maurice who is also successful and well-known, she would most likely announce it with joy and gratitude. She would post pictures. She would share her happiness. She would let her fans celebrate with her because that's what normal people do when good things happen to them. They don't hide marriage like it's a criminal record. So when she says she's not married, the most logical, reasonable, intelligent response is to believe her because she has absolutely no reason to lie about it. The people who continue to push this false narrative despite her clear denial are not doing it because they have insider information or secret evidence. They are doing it because they've built their entire online identity around gossip and speculation, and admitting they were wrong would require a level of humility they don't possess. They are doing it because her name generates traffic for their struggling blogs and desperate pages. They are doing it because they are more committed to the story they created than to the truth she lived. These are the same people who will tell you they are just having fun or it's not that deep when confronted about the harm they are causing. But let me tell you something that is indeed very deep. You cannot make a living destroying other people's peace and expect your own life to remain peaceful. You cannot plant seeds of lies and expect to harvest a crop of blessings. Karma is not a myth. Karma is not a spiritual theory. Karma is the universe's way of maintaining balance. What you give out comes back to you, maybe not immediately, maybe not in the exact form you gave it, but it comes back. The elders have a saying that he who digs a pit for another person should not be surprised when he eventually falls into it himself. This entire situation reveals more about the character of the rumor spreaders than it does about Sonia. It exposes their desperation for relevance at any cost. It shows their willingness to sacrifice someone else's reputation on the altar of their own visibility. It demonstrates their fundamental lack of empathy and their inability to see the people they gossip about as actual human beings with feelings and futures. Because if they truly admired Sonia, if they genuinely respected her as a person and not just as content for their pages, they would never participate in spreading information that could potentially damage her chances at finding real love. They would never be comfortable knowing that somewhere out there, that man we talked about at the beginning, the one who was seriously considering her for marriage, might have walked away because of lies they helped circulate. That's not fandom. That's not support. That's sabotage dressed up in the costume of entertainment. And the worst part is they probably don't even lose sleep over it because they've convinced themselves that public figures exist in some separate category of humanity where normal rules of decency don't apply. Marriage is not an Instagram caption. It's not a plot twist in a movie. It's not a rumor to play around with for content. Marriage is real life with real consequences and real commitments. Sonia deserves the space and the peace to navigate her own journey toward marriage without a chorus of misinformed voices creating obstacles in her path. She's a public figure, yes, which means her work is subject to public consumption and critique. But her personal life, her relationship status, her timeline for major life decisions, those things are not public property. She shouldn't have to come online and defend her singleness like it's a character flaw that needs explanation. She shouldn't be made to feel like there's something wrong with not being married yet when marriage happens at different times for different people. Everyone has their own season. Everyone has their own story. And trying to force someone into a narrative that doesn't fit their reality is not just annoying, it's potentially devastating to their actual future. You know what's interesting? People often mistake a woman's peace and composure for weakness or passivity. They see someone like Sonia who doesn't engage in social media wars, who doesn't clap back at every criticism, who maintains her dignity even when being provoked, and they assume she's an easy target. They think they can say whatever they want about her and she'll just keep smiling and staying quiet. But history has shown us repeatedly that when a calm person finally reaches their limit and decides to speak, their words carry a weight that no amount of noise can match. Sonia's response was not dramatic. It was not emotional. It was not vindictive. She didn't insult anyone. She didn't call out specific bloggers by name. She didn't drag Maurice or anyone else into unnecessary drama. She simply, calmly, with the confidence of someone who knows her own truth, stated the facts. And that composure, that refusal to descend into the mud even when defending herself, that's what real strength looks like. That's what grace under pressure actually means. She defended her truth without losing her character in the process, and that deserves respect from anyone with functioning moral compass. If you're still reading this and you happen to be one of those people who has been actively pushing or passively spreading that fake narrative about Sonia being married, I want you to stop for a moment and engage in a thought experiment. What if this was your sister? What if this was your daughter? What if this was your close friend being falsely accused of being married when she's clearly not? What if you watched someone you love lose opportunities, lose potential suitors, lose peace of mind because strangers on the internet decided to create a fictional version of her life for entertainment? Would you still find it funny? Would you still share those posts? Would you still leave comments speculating about details of a marriage that doesn't exist? Or would you suddenly discover empathy and realize that behind every trending name is an actual person with feelings, family, and a future that's being affected by careless words? The internet has done something dangerous to our collective sense of empathy. It has created so much distance between the speaker and the subject that people forget they're talking about real human beings. They forget that their tweets and posts and comments have power. They forget that words, even digital ones, can build up or tear down, can open doors or close them, can heal or hurt. That's why even though Sonia has now publicly clarified her status, the work doesn't end there. Her supporters, her real fans who actually care about her well-being and not just the entertainment value she provides, those people need to actively stand up for her. When you see false information being spread, don't just scroll past and assume someone else will handle it. Jump in with the facts. Politely but firmly correct the misinformation. Challenge the lies with truth. Not with insults, not with aggression, but with calm, factual statements that set the record straight. Because silence, in certain contexts, can be mistaken for agreement or complicity. If we claim to love and respect Sonia, if we say we are fans of her work and admirers of her character, then we have a responsibility to help protect her name from those who are trying to tarnish it for clicks and views and shallow validation. Life is already complicated enough. Life already comes with enough real problems and genuine struggles. Nobody needs the addition of manufactured drama and fabricated controversies. Let people breathe. Let Sonia enjoy the success she's worked so hard to achieve without having to constantly battle rumors that have no basis in reality. The energy that people waste creating and spreading lies about others could be redirected into building their own lives, pursuing their own goals, and finding their own joy. But here's the thing about envy and jealousy, they're like parasites that can't survive on their own. They need a host. They need someone else's light to define their own darkness. So instead of celebrating Sonia's success and being inspired by her journey from wherever she started to where she is now, instead of using her as motivation to work on their own dreams, these people would rather spend their time trying to diminish her shine. They would rather invent problems in her life because they can't stand to see her winning without complications. But there's a principle that governs the universe, and that principle says you cannot dim a light that God Himself has switched on. You can blow at it. You can cover it temporarily. You can spread rumors about how that light is actually something else. But the light will keep shining because its power source is not dependent on public opinion or social media validation. Sonia's success should be something that lifts others up, not something that breeds resentment and malicious gossip. Her story should inspire young girls who are watching and thinking about their own futures. Her grace under pressure should teach people about dignity and how to carry yourself when the world gets loud and chaotic. Her decision to finally speak up and defend her truth should encourage others who are dealing with false narratives to find their voice and set the record straight. But instead, what are people learning from this situation? They are learning that talent and hard work and character don't matter as much as drama and gossip and manufactured controversy. They are learning that you can do everything right and still have your name dragged through digital mud by people who have nothing better to do with their time. They are learning that some people will choose to believe lies even when the truth is spoken directly to them because the lies are more interesting. And that's a sad commentary on where we are as a society and as a culture that supposedly values truth and integrity. Now let's circle back to that crucial point about the actual romantic prospects that are being destroyed by these rumors. The man we started this conversation with is not a fictional character created for dramatic effect. He represents real men out there, men of substance and character, men who are actually looking for wives based on more than just physical appearance. These men exist. They are the ones who watch how a woman conducts herself publicly. They are the ones who pay attention to her values, her temperament, her faith, her kindness, her intelligence. They are not sliding into DMs with pick-up lines. They are not looking for casual situations. They are observing from a respectful distance, doing their homework, praying about it, and preparing to approach properly through appropriate channels. But when they encounter information suggesting that a woman is already married, they do what any honorable man would do. They move on. They don't investigate further. They don't try to confirm or deny. They simply respect what appears to be a boundary and redirect their attention elsewhere. And here's the painful truth that the gossip merchants don't want to acknowledge. Once that man moves on, once he shifts his focus to someone else, once he starts getting to know another woman with marriage in mind, you can't undo that. You can't call him back and say, "Oh sorry, we were just kidding, she's actually single." By then, the moment has passed. The opportunity has closed. The door has been locked. And that's how destinies get derailed by lies. Think about it from a practical standpoint. A man of means and options is not going to sit around waiting to see if rumors about a woman's marriage status are true or false. He has limited time and emotional energy. He's probably juggling a career, managing responsibilities, planning his future. When he decides to consider someone for marriage, he's making a significant mental and emotional investment. But if the first thing he encounters when he tries to research her is a dozen blog posts claiming she's married to some actor, what's his logical next move? He's not going to hire a private investigator. He's not going to become a detective. He's going to assume where there's that much smoke, there must be fire, and he's going to politely excuse himself from the situation. This is basic human psychology and practical decision-making. And the tragedy is that Sonia might never even know about these men who were interested but walked away because of false information. She'll never know about the connections that could have been made. She'll never know about the futures that were possible but got blocked by rumors. That's the invisible damage. That's the part that keeps happening silently in the background while the rumor spreaders are celebrating their engagement metrics. So what's the solution here? What's the way forward? First and foremost, people need to develop the discipline to verify information before they share it. Just because something trends doesn't make it true. Just because a blog post has a convincing headline and photo doesn't mean it's based on facts. Before you hit that share button, before you add your own commentary and spread information further, take 5 seconds to ask yourself if you actually know this to be true or if you're just passing along gossip. Secondly, we need to create a culture where people face consequences for deliberately spreading false information. Not legal consequences necessarily, although in extreme cases that might be warranted, but social consequences. When someone is repeatedly caught lying for engagement, their credibility should be destroyed. People should stop following them, stop trusting them, stop giving them the attention they are so desperately seeking. And thirdly, public figures like Sonia should be encouraged and supported when they speak up to defend their truth. They shouldn't be criticized for setting the record straight. They shouldn't be told to just ignore it or develop thicker skin. Sometimes speaking up is not about being thin-skinned. Sometimes speaking up is about taking control of your narrative before it controls you. Sonia did exactly what she needed to do. She waited long enough to see if the rumors would die naturally. When they didn't, when they actually got worse and more entrenched, she made the strategic decision to address them head-on in a public forum where her words would be recorded and could be referenced later. She didn't do it for sympathy. She didn't do it for attention. She did it for clarity, for peace, and for protection of her future opportunities, both professional and personal. And anyone who criticizes her for that is essentially saying that she should just accept having her life misrepresented for the comfort of gossip consumers. That's not reasonable. That's not fair. That's not how we should treat people, celebrity status notwithstanding. Every person has the right to accurate representation of their own life. Every person has the right to correct false information about themselves. And every person deserves to have that correction respected instead of being called a liar for knowing their own reality. At the end of the day, and this is where we need to land this conversation, this whole situation comes down to a choice that each person has to make. Are you going to be someone who builds others up or tears them down? Are you going to be someone who seeks truth or someone who spreads convenient lies? Are you going to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Because staying neutral is not really an option when you see injustice happening. Staying silent when you know the truth makes you complicit in the spread of falsehood. So here's the call to action for everyone who has made it this far. Share this message. Make sure it reaches beyond just this platform. Tag people who need to hear it. Have conversations with friends and family members who might be unknowingly spreading these rumors. Educate people on why this matters. Defend Sonia's name not because she's perfect or beyond criticism, but because the criticism should at least be based on fact and not fiction. When you see false posts about her marriage status, comment with the truth. When you see blogs still pushing the false narrative, call them out. When you see people mocking her for defending herself, remind them that truth always deserves a voice. This is not about being a blind fan who defends everything. This is about being a decent human being who refuses to let lies prosper simply because they are entertaining. Sonia has done her part. She's spoken her truth with grace and clarity. Now it's our turn to amplify that truth and drown out the noise. Now it's our responsibility to make sure that the next time someone searches her name, they find facts instead of fiction. Because at the end of this whole saga, when the dust settles and time passes, the only thing that will remain standing is the truth. Everything else, all the lies, all the gossip, all the manufactured drama, will be forgotten. But truth remains. Truth endures. And truth always, eventually, wins.